Good
morning.
I'm back. Oh, I'm late, aren't I? I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hello.
Heather, you're gonna want to get over onto the speaking spot. That's why nobody can hear you. Move over.
It's an orange thing next to behind the podium.
Yes.
There we go. There we go.
Here we are. Can everybody see and hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. I think I should probably introduce myself first. Question mark?
Yes, please do.
All right. My name is Heather Dewey Pettet, and I am a writer, editor, and artist. So let's see. I've done a lot of different things over the last approximately 25 years. But in recent years, I am focusing as a writer on fiction, and as an editor, I'm a freelance line editor, copy editor, proofreader, and sensitivity reader. And as an artist, I've done a wide variety of things, including photography. But in recent years, my main focus really is with wet media like watercolor and gouache and inks. And I like working with gel presses, and I like to use stamps. So what ties all that stuff together is my love for fantasy and science fiction. So I just have basically I like to have all my projects have something to do with fantasy and science fiction.
Lots of fun. I love your work. Also, you run a really fun YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you do.
And the Etsy shop. I love the stuff on her Etsy shop.
Definitely.
Thank you, Shannon.
Shannon, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Oh, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon. It does have my name there is SC Houston. That's my pen name. I write YA fantasy and fantasy romance. And I also have a YouTube channel under the name of SC Houston, where I publish things about writing and my self-publishing journey. And I also do like tons and tons of sprints, writing sprints, where we can get together and write and or just be productive in your life, whether that's art, which Heather also does some creative sprints. So if you want to be artistic on those sprints or whatever it is that you want to work on, we do a lot of those.
Yeah.
And Mama Maggie also, I'll let her say her. She also does writing. We all do like writing sprints.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that on our other
panel. Yeah. So, so I'm so very happy to be here. I was here way early because I have time anxiety.
A lot of us do, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Same.
All right. Wonderful. It's great to have you, Shannon. Maggie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes.
Hello, I am Mama Maggie Ward. I am an independent and traditionally published author. In 2005 or 15, I should have died. I had a stroke and I completely lost the ability to use language, along with suffering brain damage, memory loss, and right side paralysis. I started writing as part of my stroke recovery, and I now have 24 published books.
Wow.
And anthologies. So I'm here to tell everyone here, if you're writing, if you're publishing, you can do it. There is someone out there that is waiting to hear your story. And just, don't listen to the imposter syndrome. Don't listen to the imp, because, when life knocks you down, you have a choice. You can be better or you can be bitter. And I chose better, and I encourage everyone to choose better, because someone out there is waiting for your story.
That is excellent. Thank you so much. Yes.
Inspiration.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Leslie?
I primarily write YA fantasy. I'm also working on some fantasy romance. Very much everything that I read and write is fantasy and dragons, and I do love a lot of sci-fi also.
And then I am your stereotypical ADHD creative. So I do resin art and I make soap and I paint and I do all of the other crafts that you could possibly think of. And very similar to
Soap is beautiful.
kind of tie it all together into fantasy. It all comes into the same thing. And then I also work full-time as a critical care nurse. I've done everything from ER and trauma to adult critical care. And then right now I'm working in neonatal intensive care. So I take care of sick and premature newborns.
Wow.
Yeah. And last and most mustached, there is myself. I am E. Probilski. I am a fantasy author, and I'm an editor of 15 years. I'm late diagnosed autistic. I've been ADHD all my life. I've known that. I only started medication last year, so I'm relatively new to being part of this sphere, but at the same time, I feel like I've been here my entire life because I have. So that is a bit about me. I also am the ADHD creative. I do all the fiber arts. I'm knitting all over my desk currently. I do knitting, crochet, weaving, spinning yarn, sword stuff. I'm a historian. Like, I'm just an all-around nerd who has way too much free time, and I do fantasy maps. So that is me.
And so, yeah, I was actually diagnosed with ADHD in 2002. So that's part of my tie into the neurodivergent aspect of all of this.
Yes.
As well as I have a son who has multiple disabilities, and most of which are ND related.
Excellent. So let's, Heather, why don't you start off the panel and let us get into this?
Okay, let's see. So going by my notes, we had talked about panel topics. One of the things was, okay, I guess I should probably start by saying the name of the panel is Balancing Neurodivergence and Family Life and Working Life, essentially. So we talked, as far as a panel topic, we talked about scheduling time for things.
Yes.
Does anybody want to talk about scheduling your work life around your family? Because usually if you do have a family, that's, that tends to come first, of course.
Well, I don't know if you want anyone to go first.
Sure, go for it.
Oh, okay. My last year was my first full year as a published author. I published in November 2 Novembers ago. And last year I realized with all the things I was doing, my YouTube channel, which was helping my author platform and also trying to build my author business, I was not very good at time management. And I like schedules. I have like 5 schedules over here, but I'm very bad at upkeeping them because my brain just skipped over words all the time. And so I have problems with it. And so I had to find something else that worked for me. Don't know if it's successful. I've had some success so far this year. So what I did was I just figured out when is my family not home and I have time to write. And so I just took that and I wrote that down. So every day I write my schedule. I have 3 hours from 8 to 11 to write today. Yep. And so then that's how I start scheduling it so that I can work with my family.
That makes sense. I use a bunch of different platforms. Like I have scheduling. I like to do things pen and paper because that's how my brain works best. The act of writing something down means I'm more likely to remember it because that's how my brain is. I actually have an e-ink tablet that was a gift from an amazing friend of mine that has become the nerve center of my life. For myself, scheduling things is helpful, but what's more important to me has been communicating effectively, like what my time is, and telling my husband and the rest of my family, I'm going to be writing now, and I'm going to be writing for the next 45 minutes. So unless the house is on fire or you are on fire personally, please do not. I mean, I don't have any children, So for me, it's relatively easy, but it is like that communication element, bless you, is extremely important.
That's
We have someone in the chat down below, or he says he or she is not hearing anything. Do you have?
I suspect that he may have the wrong speaker selected. I will troubleshoot that with him in text.
Okay. Sorry about that.
So, as in my intro, I've had a stroke. So, balancing the life for me it is really a tightrope walk, because I have a farm, I have a family, and then I have my writer's time. But with my stroke symptoms, someday, today, I'm having a very good day. I only have partial numbness on this side of my face, and I'm not struggling as much today. But there are days when I really, really have a struggle with brain fog, or with the partial side paralysis and weakness, and the brain damage. And the thing is, one of the most important things I think with scheduling is, you have to have your family time. They need things, and they don't understand that, hey, I'm in the zone, I'm writing, I need to finish this right now.
Right.
Yep.
So you have to make allowances, but you also, as a neurodivergent, as my daughter has autism, I have another one that's hypomanic with depression, and you have to schedule mental health breaks in there, not only for yourself, but for your family.
Definitely.
And this is one thing that a lot of neurodivergents, a lot of people who are neuroatypical do not do. We are so used to masking and taking care of everyone around us that we forget that we need to take care of ourselves. And so my encouragement is to be aware when you need that non-writing creative refill. It is okay to put your creative energy somewhere else. It is okay to say, I am not going to meet this deadline. I am not going to meet this goal. And part of the whole life balance of time with family, time with work, time with writing is that you also need self-time.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care. And if that means you need to take time off of what you are writing, what you are planning, where you are drafting, if you are editing, formatting, wherever you are in your process, it is okay to take a step back and say, I need to go do this. And that doesn't necessarily mean go binge Netflix. Because
listen here, you.
It's not escape. You're not, when you get to this point where you're just not making any progress forward, and you feel like everything is pulling you in 1,000 directions, you need to take a few breaths and try to figure out where the log jam is. What is blocking you from moving forward? Because just going and binging an entire season of The Witcher, great world building, awesome game, very grumpy with season 2, just saying that. It's a form of escapism, but you also have to realize that if you get stuck, if your life is not working, there is a reason. And sometimes, we have to be our own tech support and troubleshoot our own lives.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Yeah, being your own tech support is challenging. I'm not sure I'm equipped for the job. I don't think anybody trained me properly, because being my own tech support is a mess. That's what I have my husband for. Have you eaten yet today, honey? Maybe? Eventually, I think.
That's a good thing.
I left the dedication in my last book saying thank you to my husband, because without him, I would have starved to death before I finished the book.
Right?
I by the way, Shannon, that reminds me, I've always jokingly said to my hubby that I will dedicate my first book to him. I've said that before I even had an idea for a book. If I ever write a book, I will dedicate it to you. And we have this running joke in our family. He's the chief cook. What does it go? How does it go? Chief cook and bottle washer, or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, that's who I'm dedicating my first book to.
Excellent.
Bottle washer. But anyway, because he does a lot of, bless him, he does a lot of the things around here, because yes, I am doing things during the day when people are busy doing other things or not here.
Yeah,
definitely.
Super focused.
Leslie, how is your scheduling going?
My scheduling is a little different because I work 12-hour days. So on the days that I work, I don't schedule writing time usually. I schedule that on my days off because every once in a while I'll be on the delivery team or something and I can open my laptop and I can get some more writing done at work. But otherwise, my day is just not conducive to that. And by the time I get home after 12 hours of trying to keep tiny people alive, I have no mental bandwidth left.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll sit and I may paint, I may I play a photography game because I do a lot of photography. So I may do those kinds of things, but getting into the headspace to write after that is just not going to happen. But I think a lot of it is giving ourselves the compassion to say, today is not a writing day. And there's a lot of, in the neurotypical writers groups, there's a lot of that. You're not a real writer if you don't write every day. And that doesn't necessarily work for everybody.
No.
You are a real writer if you write.
Yep.
Exactly. Whether you write once a week, once a month, if you are writing, you are a writer.
Definitely.
I would qualify that too, depending on your process, because like for me, I don't outline, but I dream sequences. I think sequences in my head, scenes. And so I count that now. I used to feel guilty that I would just sit there and daydream and I was not writing. And then I realized, well, no, that's part of my writing process. So now I told myself I'm not allowed to feel guilty about it anymore.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I do a lot of outlining and I have a billion notes in the notes app on my phone because even if I'm at work, if I get an idea for something, I will stick that in a note to myself.
Yeah, that definitely counts as toward the writing process. Like even if your butt isn't in the chair and your writing software isn't open, planning, thinking, daydreaming.
You'll be like washing the dishes, then you'll think of something.
Yep, absolutely.
I have pulled over my car on the side of the road to put something in a note to myself because I wasn't sure that I would remember it by the time I got home.
Yep.
I've done that. I've also written on the wall of a shower in a soap crayon.
I've done that.
That's awesome.
I actually ended up buying a notebook and pen that are waterproof.
Waterproof, yeah.
To stay in my shower.
Shower thoughts.
We're not crazy. See, it's like, my husband, sometimes I'll be writing and he'll be like, honey, what's for dinner? And I'm like, I have to finish this chapter before my brain resets and I forget.
Yep.
Right.
There's leftovers.
Yeah.
And he's really good about that. The thing is whatever your process is, wherever the creativity comes to you, do not beat yourself up because like Shannon and I have known each other. I've done interviews on her channel about writing process and stuff. And she and I have a very different writing style.
Mm-hmm.
I outline paragraphs. My outline has a paragraph per chapter. I do the whole note card paper spread out on the bed.
That's
to
how I do
figure
it.
everything out. I world build up to 50,000 words sometimes. I write a novel in my world building. And that is just my process because of my memory issues. So I have these huge, elaborate things. And Shannon will sit there and she'll just, and I've seen her do this on a stream. She'll be like, oh, and then she'll just start writing. And it's like, Shannon's gone. She'll be back in a little bit.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Akanksha, I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly, but I'm trying to. Akanksha had a question. How do you strike the balance between accepting today's not a writing day versus giving yourself gentle nudges when you need it?
I have checkpoints where I want to make, I have weekly writing goals. So I want to write at least 8,000 words a week. That's my personal goal. And I can easily do that. 2,000 words a day on a non-writing day is pretty average for me. And so I check myself at the end of each week and then at the end of each month. Where am I? Do I need to adjust? Do I need to write a little bit more? Am I sliding behind? Do I need to start getting up before work and squeezing some words in? And just having those checkpoints makes a difference.
And I log it differently because not everybody does well with word count. Some people feel stress and anxiety from trying to meet a word count. So like what I'm doing now this year, what I'm trying is that I want to hit an hourly goal, and I do it over a month. An hourly goal. I want to hit 20 hours a week on average, knowing that there's going to be a week that I'll probably not write one day because something happens or I'm just not in it. And all my months have more. So I just write down by number. I don't know if you guys can see that. I write down each day, how many hours do I have to write that day? And then, it's actually more than the 20 hours every week, but because I know that there's going to be days that I'm just not feeling it or something comes up or whatever, I get as close to that goal as possible. And then I give myself grace. If I don't get there, that's okay.
I don't actually schedule my writing time because for me, my writing time comes in fits and starts between editing projects because that's my day job, so to speak. And the editing projects, like usually those are on a timeline. So I have to work for a client and get everything done in like a couple of weeks. And if I don't schedule that properly, I'm going to end up with problems. And I usually have multiple modes. Like I'll have when I'm in writing mode and that's what I'm doing right now. Or if I'm editing or what have you, like I focus on that one thing for a while. I don't always write regularly either. Like I haven't actually written forward on anything of any of my fiction projects in a couple months. I wrote a nonfiction book in like a week, but fiction, on the other hand, sometimes I have to take like long hiatuses while I'm working on various projects. I'm a book a year author. So I don't do rapid release. I release about one book a year. The nonfiction is going to be an exception to that. But for my fiction, my fantasy story, like it's one book a year and I don't put more pressure on myself than that because I know it would be unfair to myself, particularly since as an editor, I'm frequently working on other people's work. And sometimes if I'm doing a heavy edit, I just don't have the ability to get into the writing headspace because I've used all of that creative energy on somebody else's project for them, which I don't begrudge. Like I love my job, but sometimes I have to balance that, the needs of my clients versus my personal needs. And it takes a lot of work. And I don't have I don't have kids. I just have my husband and my family I live with and my cats, who I guess count as kids, honestly.
I was there with you. I taught college English and literature for many years and ran my own business as a writing coach. And I wrote like one short story and one chapter to a book in the entire time I was teaching. And so I'm at a point in my life now where my husband just retired from the military. And I was like, okay, I'm taking advantage of this. I'm going to try write full time.
Yep.
So it's a different situation. Although I do have a kiddo who's also autistic and ADHD. Mm-hmm. So I spend a lot of time running him around every single day of the week for his appointments.
Yep.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you'll see all of these like YouTube writing gurus, and we've all seen them. They've got these massive platforms and channels. And you have to understand that sometimes they're struggling too. Sometimes their own method doesn't work for them. And there is, I am a huge advocate of this because of my brain damage. There is no right way to write a book.
Yep.
Or no right way for the same writer, because I think it changes as you change.
Yeah.
And like I was going to say, each book writes itself differently. Yep. Each book has a different process. Each genre has a different process. And honestly, if you only write 1,000 words a week, that is still 52,000 words a year.
Yeah, forward progress is forward progress. And I think
it's like I, when I'm in the writing mindset, right now I'm editing and formatting, but when I'm in a writing mindset, I can do 5,000 or 6,000 words a day easily. But when I am not in a writing mindset, I can't write 200 words a day.
Yep.
And it's just, you have to give yourself the grace, and you have to be understanding of yourself of, my brain is not going to work in this direction this week, maybe this month.
Yep.
But you will come back around to it.
I've kind of seen that happen with rapid release authors who they try and write so much so fast and get words out. And I know for a lot of neurodivergent people, there's an appeal to that. And these days, there's a lot of people who do that and feel like it's the way to do it, which honestly isn't the case. Like, as you said, there's no right way. I would say the right way to write a book is whatever works for you at that moment, at that time. Like, if it's working for you, that's the right way for you. But there's no one answer. And I know if I was trying to do rapid release and not writing 6 books and then releasing them all at once, it would be a nightmare for me. I'd burn out in a month. It would be horrible. I couldn't manage that. So it's all about finding like your personal strides. And I think the rapid release thing for me, like it might feel good to start with. You might be like, I'm making all this progress, but then the pressure shows up and the deadlines show up and readers have expectations and the anxiety happens and then you shut down and then the writing does not happen.
Right.
And I would say you never know what's in a person's background, either who rapidly releases. And I think of Mama Maggie on this one. She wrote millions of words over many years before she ever decided to publish.
Mm-hmm.
So when she decided to publish, she already had all these books. And so she released a lot of them, but you would think she was rapidly releasing, but you would have to know her background to know.
I had a huge word bank. I had a huge word bank when I started releasing. And I had done some books before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and my writing plans, like everything else in the world, just literally went. And 2021 hit, and I was like, "Hold my coffee, 2021. I am gonna get stuff done."
Yep.
And I released. I did 15 projects that year.
Mm-hmm.
Which is insane
That
to
is.
think about it. But it was all stuff that was already written, already edited.
Yep.
I only had like final passes, formats, and books covers to get through. My daughter was working on a graphic arts degree, so I was able to get, the book covers done literally in our house. And so the success I had that year was very, very atypical, but it was just me willpowering myself because I have part of my neurodivergence is I have this obsessive compulsive need to finish a task.
Yep.
And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. In 2022, I only released 3 books.
Yep.
3 books and 1 anthology. That was all I did after having a huge 2021.
Yep.
So it depends on where you are at mentally and spiritually, how far you can go. I mean, rapid releasing is an interesting experiment. I will absolutely say that it is not for everyone. Marketing sucks.
Yes.
And but whatever you see someone do, never ever think, why can't I do that? Because that is the most toxic thought that can ever squirrel itself into your brain.
Yep.
That thought is a parasite that will suck all the joy out of your life. To look at another author or another editor or anyone in any realm of your life and say, why can't I do that?
Yeah, the phrase I use to describe that is measuring yourself by somebody else's stick.
Mm-hmm.
We had a question come in through the Q&A. Kath Kirk asked, how can editors accommodate this schedule flexibility when working with authors? For me as an editor, I give slightly longer turnaround times than some other editors to accommodate for disabilities like I have chronic migraines and Ehlers-Danlos. I don't work usually with rapid release authors who are on an immediate and really tight work schedule because that is an extremely difficult way for me to handle things. Like, there are some authors who I know's work is really clean and I can zip through in an afternoon. Like, I've edited an 80,000 word book in an afternoon before because it was clean.
Oh, my.
I did a typer focus session that took everything out of me and I was down for the next 3 days, but I did it. But that's not normal. That is not normal. Don't go into that expecting your editors to do that for you.
Oh, seriously.
But that balance is for editors, you just find your people. You find the people who aren't on an immediate release schedule. You have to find the folks that are going to be able to work with you in the time that you have available.
Right.
And communicate.
Yes, definitely.
If you're struggling with health issues or whatever, and you've promised a date and that date is approaching and you don't think you're going to make it, just communicate that.
Definitely.
As I need another week, I need a little bit more time, and don't just hide in a hole and
right.
disappear.
Leslie is one of the authors I've edited for, so her feedback here is absolutely correct. There have been times I've had to go to her and be like, it's not getting done this week because I had a migraine and it's just, I'm not going to be able to make it.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fine as long as we're communicating and we know what's going on and you haven't just dropped off the face of the earth.
Right. I try not to do that.
Right.
Yeah. It actually
I always tried to do that as well.
Yeah.
Even when I was working with a neurotypical author, I always tried to do that, like add in pillows of time to my to a deadline so that I would have like an extra week or whatever, or a few days or whatever.
And don't beat yourself up for moving a deadline. Do not do this because life happens. And yeah, it's frustrating to everyone involved in the process, but there are things that you just, that sometimes they just can't be done.
Yep.
And especially in the post-pandy world, we all know that deadlines have become one of these fluid things. And it's, it's because we're all human, and it's okay to have to reach out and say, I can't do this. And as an author who has had my pub house come back to me twice last year and say, we have to push your book. And then then the date they were pushing it to came up and they're like, we're sorry, we have to push you again. And I understood, because I know that things get in the way, and it's,
yes.
And from the writer's I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Shannon.
I would say from the writer's side, my last book that I published, my dad got sick and had to have surgery, and I had to cover down because him and my mom own a liquor store. So I had to contact my editor and say, hey, look, it's going to be another month before I can get my book to you. We already had the date set.
Yep.
But she understood, you just communicate from the writer's side, even communicate with your editor.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
There's a question from Ritika. Is there any advice, hack, tips, tricks to help somebody who's formally undiagnosed and therefore unmedicated, and using probably questionable, not really helpful coping mechanisms on the daily, and has to sustain herself in a personal and professional atmosphere that thinks having neurodivergence is abnormal and making excuses, and has little external support and cannot maintain the setup that she is currently trying to deal with?
Oh, boy.
First of all, your neurodivergence, the things that you feel, the struggles you have are valid. I just want to say that to
Absolutely.
you right now. Second thing is try to, and this is something I had to do because I'm pretty much older than almost anyone here. And I was diagnosed originally in 1986 because as a 15-year-old, I realized something was wrong. And that was a generation where only the crazy people went to therapy. And as a teenager, I put myself in therapy because I knew there was something wrong. And that was an age when you had to figure out your own mechanisms, or they would just dose you until you were a zombie.
Yep.
And find your coping mechanisms when you feel overwhelmed. My daughter is a very high functioning autistic. And the thing that I've told her is it is okay to go shut yourself in the bathroom for a few minutes.
Yep.
And if you have an intolerant atmosphere around you, sometimes you have to sit down with them and say, look, this is a thing that is going on with me. I'm not imagining it. It's not a weakness. It's not an excuse. It's just, I need a few minutes.
Yep.
And and self-advocating is the biggest battle you will fight.
Yep.
It
Absolutely.
really, really is, because, after my stroke, I have fought with a dozen different neurologists about my symptoms.
Yep.
And before my stroke, I had fought because I'm bipolar, and I'm a slow cycle bipolar, which is it's a very you think, oh yeah, 3 months on a manic sounds great. You get so much done.
You're about to have something thrown at you. Your kitten is
Yeah, I was going to say your cat's up there trying to do something.
This one's name is Thing 2. And you know why now.
Excellent.
But it's very difficult when you are faced with an adversarial, and it's almost an adversarial role of those people around you, because you've spent your life coping behind the mask and being something that has been a struggle.
Yep.
And it is okay to say, I need help. I need a moment. This is the way things are. Because like allergies, it builds up in your system until you have for lack of a better term, an anaphylactic reaction to your life.
Burnout.
And Leslie's nodding. She understands completely.
Yes.
We have about 10 minutes left.
I work in a career field where the vast majority of my coworkers are also neurodivergent.
Yep.
Most of healthcare is neurodivergent, especially in your critical care. It just works well with our brains.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not lucky enough to have that, then that makes it harder.
And it's good to try and learn those words to use to advocate for yourself, because like most of us who have these, it passes on to our children. So it's good to give them those words as well to reach, so they know how to interact with their environment and their peers.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
We have about 8 minutes left.
I've been wanting to suggest, we've covered a lot of the things we had talked about wanting to cover, including focus and setting priorities. So we've kind of already done that. But some of this co-work with family members, people who are like, say, a hubby, and that would be basically me and Ellis. We had talked about that. Mm-hmm. And the things we do when you're actually working at home and your significant other is also working at home, and workarounds and things like that. And I had said that, well, one thing that really helps, because it's something he can see, is I have my headphones on, not only while I'm working, but while I'm streaming, because he's working in the same room opposite me. So when he sees my headphones on, it's also a visual thing. Yep. So when he sees them on, he bothers me less. Oh, goodness.
With that, Ellis?
Kittens, no, it was a kitten. Kitten's gonna kitten. That was not me. Not this time, anyway. Yes, having a visual cue to your partner that you're busy, or in my case, I just tell my husband, hey, I'm going in the zone for now. Like, he and I use messaging on my computer, so I can put in headphones and he can still reach me if he needs to, because we have a messenger that we communicate with.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it makes it so that if I am in the zone, he can say something to me, but not in a way that draws me fully out of what I'm doing and makes me task switch really hard into something else. So that is a very valuable tool. I also have I have Facebook Messenger that I keep as an app on my computer, and I keep it up to the side so that if somebody needs to communicate with me, I can glance at that and task switch without having people walking in and completely throwing me out of my zone. Speaking of,
I like what Catherine does in the chat. She says she puts a sign up for everyone says, go away, I'm working, or just chilling.
Yep, exactly.
I've seen those. Those are great.
I can't do the headphones because I'm partially tone deaf. So I don't know if anyone else deals with auditory issues, but if I put headphones on, I can't hear anything at all. Like I can't even hear my own voice to know what I'm saying.
In that case, you could just use turn up your computer speakers a little bit. Like that might be useful for you, or assign if you're. I don't know if you share workspace.
I don't. He has his office and I have mine, but we often just kind of barge in.
Yeah.
So we've learned to put signs on the door to say, "Hey, I'm in a meeting or I'm busy right now." Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense.
And the other thing we had talked about was focus. I don't know if we have a minute left.
We have 5 minutes left. So
three of our panelists, 3 of our panelists are YouTubers, and we hold timed streams.
Yep.
Rather
co-working sessions.
I can't talk anymore.
It's okay.
We host streams where we have timers going for productivity. A set time, and it's I've found it to be very beneficial.
Yeah,
I started streaming 2 years ago.
We also have
one thing.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to mention we this weekend actually have somebody here from an app that helps with that too. Has co-working sessions and other such things. It's centered. Stephen is going to be giving a talk a little bit later today about how that is useful too, and it lets you do co-working. And I have a separate gather set up. There's an office space for people to get together in, and you can build your own desk. And so we do co-working. You have your own spot, and people can like talk to you, but not necessarily barge in, and that can be helpful too for accountability. There are a lot of options. Like the YouTube streams are great. There's so many ways that you can set yourself up for that. Maggie, yeah.
And I was going to say, I do a 5 a.m. Writers Club, and that's Mountain Time. I do it in my own time zone. But finding an hour to 90 minutes to just like be in the quiet time of your life. Like some people, it's early in the morning. Some people, it's mid-afternoon. Some people, it's late in the evening. Being able to do that is extremely beneficial. Shannon does what are called pyramid productivity streams, which is the time increases and then decreases as the different sprints go by. But one of the most encouraging things I can say to people is find your tribe. Yep. I know that seems like a very cliche thing to do, but find the people who have a work method that works for you. Mm-hmm. Paper Tiger is a YouTuber that we all follow, and she does 90-minute to 3-hour sprints.
Wow.
Now, I love the long sprints. Most people, 25 minutes is where they max out. Yeah. Some people, 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But you can find timers to use online. There are apps for timers. Another thing is we were talking about separating your office and having a writing space and stuff, that this conversation going on in the chat right now.
Yep.
There are different ways to build yourself a writing space. You don't necessarily have to do what I did and put yourself in the closet. You can create music playlist to build yourself an atmosphere. You can use because I am a long-term non-medicated bipolar, my whole management is coping mechanisms. Mm-hmm. Change the color of the environment you are in. Change the sound of the environment you are in. Change the scent of the environment you are in.
Or have a ritual, like, have a specific drink right before you start writing. There's going to be some sessions covering that this weekend that are going to be amazing. And those are great tips.
The thing is to optimize your creativity.
I also have an accountability partner that we text each other. She'll text me, "Have you written today?" Because I told her I just want to write every day. She told me she wants to write 50 words every day. So I'll write her. She says, "Did you get your 50 words in?" And it's just accountability partner. I know we're not in the same state even. We just text each other every day. "Hey, did you get your words in?"
Yep. Heather?
Your routine might not be the same for different whips.
Definitely.
Like one whip, you might be drinking hot chocolate every day when you're writing. Another one, it might be pulling out your cup of Earl Grey.
Yep, absolutely. So we have about a minute left. Heather, would you like to close us out?
So, sure. Let's see. I'm so glad we did this, and I'm glad to be have a small part in this, Ellis. Thank you so much for all of this and for this idea of this conference. Nerves aside, I think this was successful. And I hope everybody enjoyed being on the panel.
Yes, thank you very much. This was a great time, and I look forward to the rest of the panels we're having this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to the next one we're all on together, which is the video for people who don't like cameras.
Yes, and that will be tomorrow at 3:30.
I think so. The schedule, it says so on the schedule. I don't... just whatever the schedule says, it's that one.
Yes, that's true. What was I going to say? Oh, so it was so awesome to help put this together, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Yes, next year. All right.